Welcome to the 2024 Traveller Mayday Mayday event. I'm your host, Frank Succardi from CyborgPrime Games, and I'm joined by Paul Elliott of Zozer Games, makers of Hostile and the new Cepheus Universal RPGs. Welcome, Paul. How are you today?
Very good, thank you. It's good to be here.
Great. It's great to have you. Thanks for coming back.
Well, it's been I think I wasn't here last year, but I think the last two times I've been on, haven't I? So it's quite an honour.
It's nice to have you back, and thanks for joining us. I love to meet and make friends with all of the people in the Traveller community. So thanks for your contributions. Even if it's not like directly or indirectly, since Traveller Day is Mayday is all about Traveller and Traveller adjacent things. Anyway, thanks for your contribution to that community.
I'm saying it's 47 years, I think, this year, isn't it? So we're closing in on 50 years of Traveller, which is something quite momentous, I think, for a role-playing game.
Yeah. That's true. It's getting up there. I saw. Are they planning on any kind of festivities? I think I saw something online.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know. I would think so. It's got to be something we've done with such a well thought of game for 50 years. I think so.
Yeah. I think it would be cool. Maybe they'll have something cool at the Traveller Con. Maybe they'll have a big to do. It'll like be the biggest Traveller Con ever.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So, Paul, tell us about yourself briefly. For folks who haven't heard from you before, who are you and what do you do?
I am Paul Elliott of Zozer Games, and I've been writing role-playing games for many years. First for myself, then it went online when online was created, and then around 2012 when Traveller Mongoose created the Traveller license, I moved into Traveller as quickly as possible because it's always been the love of my role-playing life, really. And I started back in 1982, something like that, and Traveller was one of the very first games I ever played. Stuck with it right throughout the 80s, and unfortunately in the 90s it dropped by the wayside when Cyberpunk came out, which is very closer to my idea of the perfect science fiction genre, really. That might come up later in the discussion here, because that sort of captivated me completely. Around the year 2000 when I sort of got back into Traveller, started playing Traveller with my boys again, got out all the classic Traveller stuff, the games, started creating worlds, and it all began again then. And their friends played, and we had a whole new game party to play with. Traveller for me has come in a couple of cycles, but it's never really left me. And I always think of the universe in Traveller stats. I don't know if other people do that, but but I do.
Have you ever statted yourself?
Oh yeah, try to, but I end up being a measly NPC on the bottom of a sheet if I do that. So
I think I asked people to stat themselves one year, and I was surprised by the results I got.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the skills we have don't appear on the Traveller list, so no, I don't think that's going to work very well.
Right.
I did have a grounding in writing. I'm a publisher now, but before that, I did a degree in ancient history and archaeology. And as soon as I got out of university, I'd been writing short stories and magazine articles while I was at university. And when I got out, I wanted to be a writer, so I thought, right, I'm going to write a book. And I knew Call of Cthulhu very well. So I wrote a book on ancient secret societies because I could tie it into the degree and get the book.
That's awesome.
So I had that published in London, and then I did a follow-up book called Brotherhoods of Fear, and then I was on a roll then because I was interested in the Vietnam War, and I managed to convince the publisher to let me write a book on the Vietnam War, even though I wasn't old enough to be in it. I was from the wrong country. We went with that, and that was published. So I've had, and subsequently I've had books on Roman history, Egyptian history published. So I've had a long sort of publishing history before I ever got into publishing role playing games. But when I did begin, I've got a sort of very disciplined stance. I know how to plan it out. I know how to work for a deadline, word counts per day, sort of word counts per week.
Like the technical
chapter
aspects
by
of
chapter.
writing.
All the difficult stuff, I'd mastered that years ago, because when you're working for a deadline, if you miss the deadline, the publisher are quite within rights to ask for the advance payment back, because they don't seem to do it now in Britain here so much for non-fiction books, but back in the 90s, you'd get a big advance of £500 or £1,000. Then you'd write the book, and then you'd send the book in, and then you would get the balance of the payment. But if you missed the deadline, you had to pay that all back. So it's a massive motivation to hit that deadline. So I never ever, you can imagine, I'd never missed a deadline.
Yeah, no.
For good helper.
Yeah, no, I don't blame you. I
So
wouldn't
that's
either.
people say. People they do say to me, how are you? You like a writer? How do you produce so many books and things? And it's just because I've just got I've instilled in me on a disciplined attitude, and it's all probably from that. Get to that deadline. Make sure you achieve the deadline. And get those words in every day and every week. I think that's what it is. It's just left me really.
Like you've got a well-established pipeline of, from your idea from your initial ideas to like finished product. Sounds like.
Yeah, once the idea's in and it's sort of statted out, written down, I write a synopsis like I would for a publisher to see that it would work. I write down a contents list. I produce a cover for the book as well. And if it all looks good, I think I'll then that's it. I'll go with that. I can't find a cover image. I just can't find a title that would fit the book, and I end up not doing the book because I need the whole package. I need everything together. And if I can't source an image or get a title that hasn't already been used anywhere, because some titles already been used, and I think, well, I could write a book, spend months writing it, but then I can't get a good title. I can't find a cover, so I ditch it. The same if the contents, there's not enough there, I ditch that as well.
Yeah.
So I do try and be my own publisher and my sort of publishing, what's the word, editor, the person hiring me. I try and do both jobs at the same time, really.
Right. That's a good approach. What I ended up doing is like doing mind maps, like so, and then I can see like what branches are the most fruitful, because I have a hard time gauging like what project to take on, because maybe I think it has a lot of meat to it, but then when I get into it, I go, no, it's kind of shallow, and what's already been said about it's been said,
Yeah. Oh, that's not a very linear way though. So how do you do that with a non-linear way of? Because I'm very linear, going one way all the time. But a mind map, is it just sort of putting ideas like on a sheet of paper and?
Yeah, you just you jot down like the main idea in the center. I use a program called Xmind, and basically the old school way is you write down like your main topic in the center, you put a circle around it, and then you make these little connections with another bubble and a word that connects to that, like those would be the subtopics. And then you kind of hit each of those and you kind of go out, and then you see which branches have the most content. And sometimes you'll be surprised because you thought another branch was going to have more content. So it kind of helps guide you in your like what of this collection of information, which direction should you take it? Because there's more there. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, right. Yeah.
How do you do it?
You do I never thought of that.
So you get well, it sounds like you do something similar, but you're just doing it in your head. Where you're tracking the thing that like you said doesn't have a title, it's just not coming, right?
Yeah. I need a cover. If I get a cover, I'm pretty sure it sounds good, and then I've got a contents list that's quite meaty, then I think I know I'm onto it. But then, like you, I add all the subheadings into the contents list to see where they should go, and if there's a heading there with nothing in it or just a couple of things, I'll try and move things around, change the contents list to more reflect what I've got. Well, this is what I've got. what categories can I put it into, kind of thing. I suppose it's almost like the reverse way that you do it with the mind map.
It's actually
Yeah,
it's
it's
almost
interesting.
it's almost the same actually, because once you put these things out, then you can rearrange them, and it's really easy to do, especially like on the computer. You can just like drag it to where another branch where it goes to, or you can see, oh,
Yeah.
this is starting to form a group
Yeah.
of a certain topic. Let me grab a piece of each of these things and make them their own group.
Yeah, and then
So
you've got a robot. You've got a robot chapter there. Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I
so
see.
so it lays it out visually, but I mean you could still do it with like a hierarchy of headings in a Word doc, for instance.
Yeah. Yeah.
You just
I think that's
brainstorm
the
them
kind of
all
thing I
out,
do.
and then see, organize them, and then see which ones have the most meat, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't write linearly either. I don't write the introduction first, so that I've got a plan of what this book is going to be about, and
Mm-hmm.
these are the expectations. So I write for the introduction then, but I don't. I just write the best. I write the coolest things first. Usually, the chapter that got me interested in the idea in the first place, I'll write that bit first, because then I'm excited. If I start on this chapter, it might be something that I haven't really thought of, and I might sit there for days and days thinking of, well, what's going to be in it, what's going to be in it, and the danger is that I lose interest and then go, oh, I can't be bothered, it's probably not going to work, and I ditch it. So I write all the cool stuff first in any order they appear, and then I've got a few thousand words then, and then I can't give up. I can't leave it.
Right,
Then I
you're over the hump, if you
fill in
will.
the rest
Yeah.
afterwards.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. You've got the mass of it then.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good
Yeah.
idea. I was going to ask you, like, what order or how do you go about writing? Because yeah, it sounds like you have procedures, or what do I want to
Yeah,
say,
it's the same kind of
a
thing.
system.
Yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I've got a friend who, yeah, it's I have a planned system. Yeah, it's the advice I give a friend of mine who keeps saying, "I must write a game. I must write a game," and I would do this. Just think of a title, and then think of what's going to be in it. Just write some notes, and then write the coolest bits first. And you'll find if you just write the bits that you really, really want to write, then you'll have enough then to keep on going. That's my advice anyway.
That's great advice. So, tell me about how your life intersected with Traveller. Like, how did you even never find out about it?
Well, it was a long time ago. I'm in my mid-50s now, so it would have been about 1982, 83, when one of our friends, we were all into geeky things, and we watched lots of VHS tapes, science fiction films, and one of our friends, I didn't see him very often, but he was the cool kid who had the toys before anybody else did. He was the cool kid who had the first role-playing game. He was the kid who had the first home computer as well. And he had this Dungeons and Dragons, and he said he wanted to play. So we played Dungeons and Dragons, Keep on the Borderlands, the very first. I think it's the Moldvay edition. So we played that, and it was amazing. Blew us away. So we went into town because we heard there was a shop there, a tiny little shop called Stamp Corner. So they sold stamps, but down in the basement, they had board games, miniatures, and they had role playing games. So we were into science fiction, but my friend bought Traveller. He saw it and said, "Oh, I'm gonna have that. It's science fiction." So we couldn't buy it. He'd bought it, and we pestered him, and he wouldn't. I don't think he wasn't interested in science fiction. I don't know why he bought it, but um, we pestered him and pestered him. Me and a friend of mine, because we used to buy lots of science fiction novels and short stories, and used to swap them between each other. And we begged him to let us read it, and he let us read it in case we started role playing it, and basically took the idea off him. So he lent us out the books. Now it was Traveller Deluxe, which is a box set, 1, 2, and 3, and it included book 0, Introduction to Traveller, and all he would lend us is that book. We read Introduction to Traveller, which is how to referee, the basics of refereeing, the basics of playing, how to set up a campaign, how to set up a scenario, how to populate a subsector after you've rolled all the dice. But there were rules in it, except for the last few pages. There were 2 pages of tables on what the percentage chances were of rolling on a 1d6, 2d6. And we thought they were the rules. We spent hours trying to work out how those rules worked. We just could not fathom it. And we begged him for the other books, and he wouldn't let us have the books. So eventually, I managed to buy I think it was £15 I gave him, which was more than he paid for it, and I bought it off him. Then it was I still have it today as well. I have this box set beaten up,
Hey, precious.
and then I read all the other books, and it's mine now. It's mine. I have it. So yeah, read all the books. Oh, there are some of the books, and there are some of the rules, and then I understood it then. Well, that was quite tantalising. It was tantalising. I knew it was a good game. I'd heard something about it, but he wouldn't let us. He wouldn't let us read it. He was. Then he ended up buying RuneQuest instead. So we had all the classic games between us: Dungeons and Dragons, RuneQuest, and Traveller. But me and my friend, we just we refereed Traveller non-stop, and he'd referee, I'd referee, and he'd referee, and we'd swap like that for everybody. So we played it non-stop for years, really. Yeah, it's good.
Awesome. Yeah, I love it. It's my favorite. It's my favorite. I play a lot of role-playing games over my lifetime, and it's by far my favorite. I did like D&D,
which edition is it? The early?
I started with the black books, but I've kept up with each edition as it came out. So
yeah.
I never really fell behind or had a favorite edition. I always looked forward to the next edition because I felt like it fixed bugs, it added rules, it kept up with features that other role-playing games, had. So it was kind of staying competitive over time,
Yeah, if it had stayed as it was, it wouldn't have lasted till 47 years, would it? It wouldn't have lasted at all.
Right.
If you just had those three black books, I think.
Right. So I like every edition. I think my favorite one right now is Mongoose. It's got the cool life path system, and it still has like the heart of classic Traveller. So kind of appeals to the nostalgia grognard in me, But it's also modernized, which appeals to my progressive side. I want to see new stuff. So that's.
Yeah. It definitely is. It is the slickest, coolest version, isn't it? Really, at the moment.
Yeah.
It really is. It's a modern version of what we were playing years ago.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And So how did you go? How did you go from Traveller player to Traveller businessman to Traveller merchant?
Yeah. Well, I'd always been writing settings and writing little mini games as well. I've got this distinct memory of wanting to mess about with Traveller and create a setting that incorporated all the visuals from Alien and Blade Runner, and Outland, and Escape from New York. All those kind of visuals, and in my mind, they were all in the same universe, all the same setting, and that was going to be my Traveller setting. So.
Were you thinking them? Were you thinking of them as like separate places in your setting, or were you thinking of them as the same place? Like were they all on the same world, or those represented different worlds?
Earth, I think. There were lots of films I watched, and I thought that could be my Earth. That could be on my Earth. The Blade Runner could be on my Earth. Rollerball could be on my Earth. Escape from New York, that could exist, and they could all coexist together.
Death Race.
And out in space, we've got what's that? Sorry, Death Race. Yeah. And then we've got in outer space, we've got Saturn 3. That could exist in my world. We've got Alien. We've got Aliens. We've got Outland. We've got Silent Running. They could all exist out there. They're the right tech level for Traveller. So in my setting, that was going to be, that was my setting. So every time I described something, it was as if it was that setting. I think I did create an Earth and a subsector, and we role played in that as if it was all those movies mashed together. And I changed a few rules here and there, but that was it. That was my primary setting, really. But then I spent so much time on Earth, writing about Earth and how it was, and became very cyberpunk. Anything that like Car Wars that came out, that attracted my attention. And then when Cyberpunk came out in 1989, well, that was it. That sort of light bulb in my head, and I dropped Traveller, concentrated on that because I thought this is my Earth written for me. This is my setting written for me. So that's where I went into what we would call the Traveller wilderness then for for a few years. Totally cyberpunk, absolutely, totally cyberpunk. Yeah. So went through there, yeah, and then I started writing other games. Then I moved away and got a group of gamers, and they'd never gamed before anything ever. So I did some cyberpunk role playing with them, and then they games had written on a sheet of paper, setting and some rules. Played that, and that was really impressive. So I did the same. I'd write a little game for next week set. Like in World War II, in sort of the Eastern Front, fighting a predator or something, and we'd just write it up, play it, and then forget about it. And we did this all through the 90s. We just write these games until it became something I got quite good at, writing bigger and bigger games. So that's where it all began, really, writing proper big games. And then I said, like, when the license for Traveller appeared, I thought, well, this is great writing these games internet, but now I can write my true love game, which was for Traveller. So that's how I turned. Without DriveThru, this would never happen, of course. Without being able to sell online through PDFs, I mean that is an absolute godsend to anybody who's got that creative itch, that writing itch, because it's sitting right there. It's easy access. Anyone can upload something to that. It says, "Here's the Traveller license. I want to write for Traveller. That's what I want to do." But I didn't want to write for the Third Imperium or anything connected with that. I don't know if you could at the time. I think you could. I think you could write with the first license for the Third Imperium. But that didn't interest me. That setting never interested me at all. It was too hemmed in on all sides by, in my view, by alien races. So deep space exploration sort of seemed out, and the aliens weren't. I didn't think they were quite alien enough. So, and it never sort of attracted me that much. So
you wanted a more human-centric world.
Yeah, human-centric world with just big empty spaces around. And so the one I wanted to do was a near space solar system game, and using what was in the Traveller rules without making too much stuff up, to create a reaction drive NASA-style rockets and spin habitats and that kind of thing. So I created a setting called Orbital, where there's a cold war between Earth and the moon, and the moon's a bit like Cuba. It's got mass driver machines that could lob huge rocks at Earth and wipe out all the cities on Earth if it wanted to. So it's that Cuba United States sort of setup, and they can't get to the moon without being destroyed. So there's this Cold War stalemate between the lunar colonists and the people on Earth, and they end up dividing up the solar system between the two factions. So some of the moons of Jupiter will be colonized by Luna, some of the Mercury might be Earth, and they've had to split it up, and there's a sort of Cold War right through the solar system. And it's all, like I said, reaction drives. It takes months to get to Jupiter, that kind of thing. And with a little, just a small tweak in the rules, I managed to get that to work, really. And the tweak was that instead of jump drives, so instead of jump drives, the reaction drive takes up all that fuel, which is the way reaction drives work. They need massive amounts of reaction mass, so that that jump fuel that you would normally make the space inside a Traveller ship now becomes the reaction fuel, and then it all became quite realistic. Then and then just lengthen out the travel times, and it all seemed to work quite well. So that's one of my favourite settings. It's very scientific. I used a lot of NASA manuals to write that for real things and get them, because they're online as PDFs. So you can have a read and sort of try and replicate what exists rather than create new things all the time. So that was really refreshing and very cool to do. So that was the first thing I did. and after that, then I just sort of plodded on with a few more things. You got to start with one thing that I didn't know if it was going to sell or not, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
And it did quite well, and it seemed to be quite popular. And I may be doing it again for Cepheus Universal or for Mongoose Traveller. I'm not sure yet,
Mm-hmm.
but it needs an update. It needs. I keep getting asked, can you re-release it with some rules and re-release it with changes here and there? So I might do that this year.
Oh, cool. Do you get a lot of feedback from? Do you have like a supportive community that reads your books and gives you
Oh,
feedback?
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
On Discord, there's Zozer Games Discord and Facebook. We've got a group there. They're really, really good. They're demanding new books, giving me ideas for new
They're very
books.
demanding, though.
Yeah, they're very demanding. I'm so pleased they are. When's this coming out? When's that coming out? Is there a sequel for this? And why aren't you producing a supplement about this? And it's brilliant. It's great. And they produce ideas that I would never think of. And a line of books or something that, to be honest, some of the ideas I can't do. I don't have the expertise for, but some of the things that they come up with, this game needs this, and it's like, oh yes, it does. It really does. It becomes my next supplement. So, no, they're full of ideas, and it's absolutely brilliant. They're some cool guys. They're really intelligent. They know a lot about a lot of stuff, which I really respect.
Great.
And
Yeah.
some of them should be writing their own books.
Yeah. I agree with you on that totally. Same. My experience has been the same. The group
Oh, good.
the community's been
Yeah.
nothing but supportive. So there's some
I'm
curmudgeons in
part.
there, but they get cleared out pretty fast.
Yeah. I'm on the Facebook group that you run. It's very good. Yeah.
Well, I didn't know if it would fly. And now it's almost
Oh,
up
it's nice
to
to have different
2,000.
ones. Yeah.
Yeah, people were like, "Well,
You
why
get
would I want to
different
join
people in
another
it.
Traveller group?" They're all. And I was like, "Because it's a different group of people in a different headspace over here."
Yeah.
You go to the one that you
Yeah. Well,
like.
I'll join them all and see how it goes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, So, what have you been up to since the last time we talked to you? I think you had just put out Hostile, or you were telling me about how the guys who did the Alien role playing game had reached out to you.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. I'd written Hostile, which was doing very well. And of course, it's alien themed. Then I got an email out of the blue from Free League asking me if I would mind contributing something to the Alien role playing game along the same kind of theme. So I wrote parts of the character creation rules, and I wrote the planetary generation rules. I wrote the encounter rules, the mission rules, and I did all the space station that appears in the first book as well. So yeah, it was hard to give them things that I'd already written for my game, but different and with a slightly different rule set. But I managed that, and then they asked me to write for the marine book that followed on as well. So I wrote several locations for that. So that was really cool. But since then, I've brought out a rules book for Hostile, because Hostile used Cepheus Engine. You had to buy Cepheus Engine to play with the setting, the Hostile setting, which it's based on my original, like I mentioned earlier, my old classic Traveller, What If, Aliens, Outland, Silent Running,
Right.
Blade Runner. We're all in the same universe. What
So
would it
the
be
hostile
like?
or the hostile core rules is that just is that a layer on top of Cepheus Engine, or is that like a whole
No,
it's self-contained like thing?
Yeah. People wanted. I kept getting requests for, can we have rules with the book? Can we have rules with the book? And I thought, well, it's going to be a huge book if I include the rules as well. So I brought out a separate rules book to go with a setting. So you don't have to have it. You can carry on using Cepheus Engine if you like.
Okay.
But the rules become a companion for the book. They've got the same layout, the same kind of formatting, the same kind of color balance and everything. But all the rules are there. There's character generation, there are combat rules, world creation rules, but they're all tweaked, twisted to fit the hostile ethos and the setting. The fact that it's quite it's a dangerous, deadly, dark, and grim, and quite a cynical world. So the rules all reflect that, and the artwork reflects that. There are adverts in there from major corporations and that kind of thing.
Awesome.
And they make a beautiful companion pair. They do. That's really, really nice. They sit on my shelf. I look at them every day and think they're great. I love those. It's my version of Cepheus, really. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's something I always liked from the, I guess, Shadowrun. They had like Seattle Sourcebook or whatever, and it had advertisements from different kinds of fictional cyberpunk businesses throughout the book.
Yeah, well, I saw the same thing in Cyberpunk in there, and the supplements like Solo and Rockaboy and things. They all had the adverts, so that I think I maybe taken some of that from there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's and I've been following it with other supplements ever since, really.
Let's talk about the Hostile Solo. Is that is Solo is for Hostile? Is that right?
It is, yeah.
Okay.
It's a completely standalone game, though. I've been interested in Solo for a while, ever since my group sort of broke up after both my sons have left home and they're doing their own thing. So I needed to I started doing my own solo games, and I created quite a group of them. Solo games for different things. For asteroid mining, I create a whole game, and espionage, I create rules for a game, then I'd play it through, and then I realized I could put these together, and they were a family of solo games, really. And so that's what I decided to do for Hostile, which is they're all mini games to play solo in the Hostile universe. But I wanted the book to be completely standalone, because it's nothing worse than getting a book and it's like, this is really good, but now I need to go away and buy the rules book and the settings book and this book and that book. So it's it's aimed at solo gamers, not particularly hostile gamers, but solo gamers. So you can open it up, and in it tells you how to what kind of campaign do you want to play? Do you want to be asteroid miners, or do you want to be explorers? And then this is how you create your small group of characters. And then this is the rules for combat, and this is the rules for task resolution and scene resolution. And then each section within the book has specialized custom rules for different activities, like managing a colony. So you roll week by week, month by month, for different aspects of the colony. If you were managing the colony, you'd get different events thrown at you. If you're an asteroid miner, you're running the normal, running the ship and getting the mining gear out and things. But then there are problems you have to overcome. What happens, and then there's always something in the background. There's a crisis that's inevitably going to happen to you. You just don't know when it's going to occur, and that sort of rolls along behind everything. So
that sounds super interesting, because I only could you give us a brief overview of like how solo RPG works? Because I only understand solo gaming insofar as like being a single player, like rolling up, I don't know, traveler characters or a subsector. I don't know how you do a solo game that's a campaign. How do you how even does that work?
Yeah, well, it all depends on. I mean, I learned how to do all this using Classic Traveller, which is perfect for solo play, where you can create characters, you can create a starship, you can create a universe, you can create the animals. You can then you can go through and you can say, I'm on this planet. Are there any cargoes? Roll the dice. Yes, there's some cargoes. Do we have any encounters? There's an encounter table. Oh, I have an encounter with so-and-so. Let's roll the reaction table to see how that goes. Oh, it goes quite well. Oh, maybe there'll be a contact for me if I ever come back to this world. Let's write their name down. Right, let's go to the next world and sell that cargo. Do we get a good price for it? No, we don't. Oh dear, that's bad. Let's roll for a ship encounter on the way. Okay, because there are tables for that, and it goes on and on and on with that. And it's a bit it becomes a bit linear because it's basically a trading game. But if you've got the encounter tables for it, I think you can make a solo game out of it, because they provide the new impetus for new things happening, new things arriving. Without those, you're stuck with your own imagination, really. So a lot of the solo gaming in the Hostile Solo book is tables of things that you will encounter, events that you will encounter. But the one thing I have done, which I don't think many solo games do, is concentrate on a crew of people. I have played. I've bought some solo games off DriveThru, and I've tried them, and it's just me, the one character, and I don't get I'm not bored so much, but I run out of ideas, and it's like, well, what do I do next? I don't know. Roll for an encounter. Well, that's okay. So we resolve that encounter. Now what do I do? So you on your own, and it's like motivation for one person. So what I did is create essentially a scene resolution for a crew. And if you're in a starship, you're gonna have a crew anyway. But then you've got a mining crew, or if you're a Marines, you've got a small squad. Running a colony, you've got sort of the management crew, or the important NPCs. So you create a small group of people, sort of 6 people, and they become your party. You can nominate one of those as you if you like, but it's the group as a whole, and then they can bounce off each other. So there are I created some personal tables. So every now and then you'd roll, is everybody happy? No, they're not happy. Somebody's not happy. Who is it? Roll randomly. It's the engineer. Why is the engineer not happy? Well, there's a table for why people aren't happy. Let's roll on that. We're having an argument with somebody else. Oh, who's that person? It's so and so. Ah, it's the pilot. Why would that be? Ah, well, in the last encounter we had, the pilot did that bad landing and she damaged the engines. So maybe that's why. So let's write that down. Engineer has animosity with pilot. We'll remember that. So the crew themselves are an adventure in progress. So even if nothing's happening in the game, you didn't encounter any starships on the way to the jump point, you can still have tension and things happening. And you can have a character throw a tantrum, lock themselves in an airlock, or you could have somebody who on the tables it turns out they're fighting against everybody else through some kind of traitor, but who they're working for we don't know, but maybe that we'll figure that out later in the game as we encounter more things, and so that's the thing that kept me role playing for years and years and years, was working with a group of people instead of just one person, because I really struggled with one person. I don't know about you, but I just struggled with, what do I do now? I just didn't know what to do. But when there's a group of people, there's always something happening. There's always somebody doing something, you see.
Mm-hmm.
That's my philosophy with that anyway.
That's a good philosophy. I mean, I'm not always wanting, well, first of all, I don't get to play very often because I normally GM, but I got invited,
Oh, right.
I got invited to play maybe 6 months ago by some people in my community and actually one of my Patreon people. So I was like,
Right.
okay, yeah, cool. And I started playing. I was like, this is so fun, because I haven't really been a player since I was a teenager, and I'm 55 now. So it's been like, 40 years since I was a player. And so I made a character who's like, he's got social of 4. And so I'm like a cross between Dr. Smith and Dr. Rodney McKay, if they had an unholy love child. I boast about my scholarly prowess and all the books I've written and things, and complain about life's minor inconveniences.
That's a character, that is.
Yeah. Well, I was like, the thing about Dr. McKay I always thought was funny in Atlantis is like, he's so annoying, and but he's also brilliant, so like he would be the last guy you choose for your team, but also the first guy you choose for your team, because he's gonna be the one who gets you out of the force field trap, or whatever.
Yeah, that was a good character to base it on, actually, from Atlantis. Yeah, Stargate Atlantis.
Yeah,
that the one McKay from Stargate Atlantis.
Yeah, he's from Stargate.
Oh, he was thoroughly unlikable.
Yeah, so unlikable and annoying, and complained about everything, and he was always put out about everything, and nobody would acknowledge his genius, and yeah. So yeah, I'm having fun
Cool.
with that. But he doesn't really start the like adventures. He follows along, and not follows along, but he finds his own interest wherever we go. But he's not the main character. I let
Yeah,
the other
yeah,
people decide what's important to them, where they want to go. I'm just a scientist. I'll study whatever thing I'm interested in wherever we go. So,
yeah. I'm always happiest doing that kind of role, really. Yeah.
but I do like
I
to play
enjoy
with more
as a
people.
role.
I don't like a single player game personally. My friends play, like Starfield or whatever came out, and I just can't. It's boring with single playing for me. On the other hand, I could roll up
Yeah,
Traveller
yeah,
planets all day long, so that's not boring. But
yeah.
really, I'd
Well,
rather
it is. It's still
socialize.
so. I count that as solo gaming, to be honest.
Hmm.
Really, it depends on your definition. I think.
Yeah, right.
But
So,
yeah, it's been many, many, many hours doing that. Many hours rolling up planets and characters and starships and
yeah, when I
the
was a
rest.
teenager and we'd go on vacation and maybe we're visiting, Aunt Sally or whatever, and I got nothing to do, no friends there or whatever, so I brought my Traveller books and I would make Traveller planets on the plane or on the car or on the bus or on the train or wherever
Yeah,
and have
yeah, me
something to
too,
do.
me too.
Yeah, it's given me a lot
Yeah,
of hours
yeah,
of funness.
great.
So, what
Yeah.
recent products have you put out? I guess Cepheus Universal. Want to
It's
talk about that?
it, it it's an idea that Ian Stead, the Starship artist, gave me. He did say that I do like your version of Cepheus, the hostile version. I like the way you've done combat, and I like the way you've got this area fire rule where if you can't see the enemy, you aim at an area. You don't. You're always unsure whether you're hitting them or not. So the area combat was quite cool. Yeah, he liked that. Liked some of the starship tweaks as well, and some of the character ideas. So he did suggest, why didn't you put it out but without the setting? So that was the intention, just to strip it all out and then republish it with just the rules. But it just snowballed. I mean, it was only meant to be like a 4, 5, 6 week job, just to strip the setting out and just reformat and then just put it out as a sort of generic version. I don't know what I would call it. But then it got bigger and bigger because I thought, well, it needs it. It's got hyperspace rules. It needs maybe jump rules, and then, well, if I'm putting in jump rules in it, it needs maybe other drives as well. Reaction drives, maybe I could put those in from Orbital that I'd written before, so they can go in. But then I need some weapons to match that, and then I'll put weapons in from tech level 16. It just got bigger and bigger and bigger.
Did you draw
Computers, and let's go.
from some of your other IPs, like your
Yeah,
Modern War
oh,
and things
I
like
did.
that?
Yeah,
Huh?
yeah, I did. I shamelessly took wherever I could because everything's compatible that I've written so far. Orbital and Modern War, and Hostile, and a couple of other things. They're all sort of compatible anyway. So it's like taking that out there, dropping it inside, make sure it works with everything else, and moving on. And now there's a gap. I've got a gap here to fill. A sort of AI. I've got to put some AI in. So I spent weeks and weeks researching AI and rules for AI and putting that in. And then vehicles. I had some rough vehicle creation rules that were sort of not point by, what's the off the shelf kind of rules where you can customize a vehicle. You can buy a basic vehicle and then you customize it with four things. What do you want? Do you want armor? Do you want a weapon? Or do you want sort of high speed or long range? So I had this system ready for another game, but it slotted so easily in. So I dropped all that in and tweaked all that in as well. And it was just getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And I thought, well, I'm doing this now. This is it. And I spent most of last year setting this up, uh, all from that simple idea of putting out the hostile rules, and it just grew and grew and grew. What it is Cepheus Universal, which is science fiction role playing for any tech level. From you could run a Stone Age game on prehistoric Earth, or you could run a Star Trek style Tech 16 game, beaming down to planets and using phasers or disintegrators and against defensive screens and ships with warp drives. And so I've tried to fill all the gaps that seem to emerge with the stuff that was needed. to make a seamless kind of game that fills every tech level equally. And I was really, really pleased with the result. And it ended up being 440 pages, which I didn't sort of grasp the size of it until I ordered the proof for the hardback, and it arrived and it was 1.25 inches thick. And I thought, my God, that's a big, that's a big book. It really is a big book.
And you can use it
The
for
biggest thing I've ever read.
self-defense.
Oh God, yeah! If you got shot with it, if you had that in your pocket, you'd be all right. But I didn't realize how big it had become until that book arrived. I knew it was bigger than the other books I'd written, but PDF you don't really understand because you can skip from one end of the PDF to the other just with a keystroke.
Yep.
But when you see it arrive through the door, I mean the post lady who arrived with it, she had the softback and the hardback together, and she had it but clutched to her chest with both arms, and I thought, that's my that's my book.
She's like, ow, my back.
Oh yeah.
Do you have an aspirin?
So yeah. I said, I know what that is. I'm waiting for that, and I took it off her, you know. But I didn't intend it to be this big at all. I really did not. But it's one of those things that you start it, and it just snowballed really, and it just got bigger and bigger. And it, like I said, it took me all year to write, but I'm really, really, really pleased with the results. It's when I opened Cepheus Engine for the first time back in 2016, I thought this could be a universal sci-fi game. If you added this and this and this, you could use it for everything, you know. And I think that's what I have accidentally created is a sort of Cepheus Engine that you could use for anything really. Battlestar Galactica, you could run with it. Star Wars, Rollerball, I don't know, you name it, you could run it really. So I'm really, really pleased with it, and it's been very popular. Very popular. It's sold ever so well, despite my expectations. Because when you bring something out, as you know, bring something out, it might just not even get noticed and not be popular and just drop away. So every book's a gamble, and this was a big one, but it seems to have paid off. It's been very popular.
Yeah,
very pleased with
it seems like it's well received. I've seen people talking about how happy they are with it on the various forums. So congratulations.
I've had questions. I've had some. Oh, thank you. Yeah, I've had some questions from people saying, "How is it different from Cepheus Deluxe?" You know, Stella Gamma's game, which is very, very popular. Often there's people say, "I do role play in your hostile setting, but I use Cepheus Deluxe," which is absolutely fine by me. You know, it's and the way I describe it to them is, well, Omer's game, Cepheus Deluxe, it's faster, lighter, it's quicker to play, and it's easier to teach to new players, and you can get things done with it quickly. But Cepheus Universal, because of what it is, there are rules for almost everything. So it's more complex. It's more. It covers a lot more things, but it takes a little bit longer to create characters. It takes a little bit longer to do your combat. And so it's for different. I think they're aimed at different players, different types of players. There are those who want rules light and faster play, and then there are those who want to be able to build things and create things and the machinery of how things work and a few more rules. I mean, there are rules in there for pressurization at depth, you know, like diving and then resurfacing and bends and things. There are rules for depressurization of a vac suit and what happens to the body. There are rules for uploading minds into an AI, and there are creation rules for alien species, and so there's lots of creation rules and there's lots of more technical rules for those people who like them really. So I do think they're aimed at slightly different kinds of traveller audiences. The more technical, create a lot of things kind of, and that I want to play things quickly kind of audience. So I'm sure there'll be an overlap, but I think we do cater to different audiences. Well, I hope so anyway.
Sounds like they're two very different products. I think Omer prides himself on fast playing stuff, you know, so he has a lot of rules light.
Yeah, I mean, his games are, again, they're absolutely perfect for role playing online, that kind of thing. where there's not much ambiguity. You don't need to look up a lot of rules. It's all there.
Right.
So yeah, different games for different playing styles. I think.
Sure, sure. So, tell us about any new business coming. You have any new expansions coming out, or what's your next project?
Yeah. Well, I think I am. See, I'm at a bit of a crossroads because Mongoose Traveller, and I'm sure Matt Sprang will talk about this in his interview. I've brought out the Traveller license. I've reinstituted it from the license of 2016. So it's the same. It's the same Traveller license, but slightly modified. So for a new audience. So it's going to be all going to be able to write for Traveller once again. So that's very exciting. It's just what do I use? What do I write for Traveller, and what do I write for Zozer Games now? So
Mm-hmm.
I'm not quite sure what to do. I've got a few things like Orbital needs it needs a complete rewrite. I've got some great ideas to make it more playable because it's a very scientific game, and it can be difficult to create missions for that. So I'm collaborating with a long-time player of the game on sort of giving it an extra twist to make it much easier to get games going and to play them, and to add more features of the Cold War espionage, which I didn't really include in the book. There's that. Orbital definitely needs a new lease of life, and I may write. Well, I better not say, 'cause if I don't do it, then people will be demanding. You said you were going to write that, and you never. So I'm not sure. I definitely want to write some settings for for the Cepheus Universal game. It's wide open. It's ripe for that, and it's like an open. There's an open license for it as well, so anybody could write a setting for that using the license. So I do have a couple of things ready for that. Other than that, it's a few more hostile books. There's a hostile private military contractors book coming out, a mercenary book. Because again, the feedback I've had is I'm playing a mercenary game for hostile. Please, can we have a book for it? I hear this quite a lot, so it's responding to feedback really. And I think you're mad if you don't respond to feedback like that
Mm-hmm.
when you're a publisher.
Right, right. Well,
So nothing, yeah. So no massive projects. I've just spent a year doing the biggest project I've ever done. But
might
there'll be
need a rest.
some smaller books, some smaller books. Yes, definitely,
Yeah,
definitely.
clear the mental palate, as it were.
Yeah, creating an index for it was an absolute horror show. It's easy
Yeah,
with word processor because you can, but it's just that it's such a massive index, and you've
and
just
which words do you
creating the word
choose?
list.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's right. You've got to be you can't choose every word. You can't choose every noun. You've got to use words that. Well, my view is if I think a player would be looking that up, I'll include the word. So the word alien or the word starship or the word maneuver drive. Um, not every instance of a very common word. So it's trying to make it a usable index for people who are looking things up really. Then create a huge word list and then go back to right to the beginning and then find every instance of that word that you think's relevant. And it took days. I thought I'll do it in a day or 2 days. It took me about 5 days to create the index. And once that's done, of course, you can't change anything. Every word has to be on the same page, no matter what you change. If you do any typos or edits or things like that, after you've done the index, you can't make any word go onto any other page because the index may completely be ruined then.
right.
So that's the very, 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 very last thing you ever do is the index.
Yeah, I was.
It's a horrible job.
Yeah. I was trying to decide on my own for my computer book. I was like, do I put every single like mention of this word, or like what, or just the first time it's defined? I mean, like, it was hard. It was hard
So
to
what did you
decide.
do? Did,
I decided to anytime it was more than a mention, like if it was any substantial thing. There was no. It was hard. I just had to kill my darlings, as they say, and go. This doesn't really belong in the
yeah.
index, or like you say. Is this something somebody would look up, or is this an important topic or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You don't need to
Because
like.
you're gonna waste somebody's time, aren't you? If they're looking up about alien species, and they look up they want to know about all the references to alien species, and you've got a line in your book that says you can also find this information in the section on alien species. If you include that in the index, they're going to go to that page, and then, oh well, there's nothing on this page of any interest except a reference to another page. So, yeah, I think you've got to be selective in creating an index. It's quite an art form. I think it's not a this is what you do. You've got to do it like you said. You've got to look at it and decide on the spur of the moment what do I need to do. I think.
Yeah, like all the
But
all the
I guess that's why.
interface takes place on the stage, and so I mentioned the stage at the beginning because it's an instructional book, but I didn't mention the stage every time I said stage in the rest of the book. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Although I
yeah.
guess technically
And
you
I
should
guess
do
that's why a lot of
that.
well, yeah. A lot of role playing games don't include an index. Those that are small press on drive-through, because it's a big big job to do. Quite a cool
Yeah,
one.
it's a hassle. All right, cool. So, where can people find your products mainly? Do you have your own website or primarily through DriveThru?
Yeah,
Or
well, we sell on drive-through, and there's a full listing there of the books. But because of formatting issues I have with the software I use, still on my print books on lulu.com. So if you type in
that's
Zozer
where I
Games or
sell.
Paul Elliott on lulu.com,
Mm-hmm.
yes,
Yeah,
the interface on there's a dream. It's really, really good. You can put a book up so quickly. I find it very, very easy. Really enjoy it. I did try going through drive-through, and I found it very difficult to do. So I think that just that one time put me off, and the formatting problems I had, I just couldn't resolve properly. So
gotcha.
yeah, Lulu's I think it's a great place. Yeah.
And so,
So we sell on there as well.
okay, I was gonna say, so folks can get digital copies of your products at Lulu and DriveThru, but physical copies from Lulu.
Yeah, physical copies are all from Lulu, and
Okay,
everything that's digital. If it's over 40 pages, there'll be a print book as well. And then if they go to my website, Zozer Games, just type that in, and should be the first thing on the search engine there. Everything's listed on there. Every book has got its own page, and it's got its own links to Lulu, and it's got its own links to DriveThru, and it's got some of the pages have additional resources, extra files, character sheets, maps, things like that. There.
wow, sounds like a
So,
great resource.
if you go to Zozer Games website, there's lots of stuff on there, and there's lots of free hostile things there, and free games there, and that kind of thing as well. So I
Awesome.
would recommend Zozer Games website. Yeah.
Great. And then on social media, you're mostly on Facebook, or do you do other ones?
Yeah. Social media's I'm not very good at social media, but Facebook and Discord, and I think that might be it really. Yeah, that's where I tend to do all my talking. Yeah.
All right, cool. Well, Paul, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, thank you. It's been a pleasure. It's been a delightful talk. I really enjoyed it.
I
Thank you.
enjoyed chatting with you, and I hope you'll come back again next year.
Yeah, and I will definitely be back for the 50th if you're doing one there. So,
Great.
that'll be something to see. Really will. Yeah.
Hey, Paul, thanks for your support with this event.
Thanks very much.
And thank you for joining us, dear travelers. Our guest today has been Paul Elliott of Zozer Games, maker of Hostile and the new Cepheus Universal RPGs. Until next time, my friends, happy traveling. Don't fly solo through the galaxy. Click like to join our alliance. Subscribe for your crew pass, and enable notifications to never miss an encounter. This journey is fueled by my patrons. Thank you, patrons. Feel the thrill of discovery. Become a patron and join the adventure.